you vote for Tibetans, Uyghurs, Hongkongers, Australians who faced, brutal persecution, and not saying I've faced brutal persecution, but the other members of my party have. Because when you vote for people like us who understand the CCP at a fundamental nature, at the fundamental level, because we've all gone through, to varying degrees, ordeals when it comes to, standing against the Chinese government. When you vote for us, you know what you're getting. We're not going to sell out Australia. We're not going to sell out democratic values. We're not going to allow our economy to be dominated by Chinese government interests. I mean, the Liberal Party, the Labor Party, the Greens, the Independents, to all varying degrees over the years, the Liberals wanted to introduce an extradition bill. Hongkongers were fighting and dying in the streets trying to stop an extradition bill with China. The Liberal government in 2013 tried to introduce one. No, actually, I think it was as late as 2016, 2017. The Liberal government tried to introduce an extradition bill in Australia. Labor had Sam Dastyari, who changed his position on the South China Sea because a Chinese government-linked billionaire dropped off a bag full of $100,000 in cash at this Labor Party headquarters in Sydney. That's a real story. The Greens just last week came out and they said Taiwan's not an issue for Australia. It's racist to criticise the Chinese government's attempts to build military bases on the Solomon Islands, just 1,000 kilometres off the coast of North Queensland. That's racist and colonial mindset to criticise that. They want to halve our defence spending. They want to rip up the relationship with the US, all our defence partners, and they want to halve defence spending. I mean, it's literally the Chinese government's golden dream. They want that. They would love that to happen if we cut our defence spending in half and cut off our relationships with democratic allies. I mean, the Chinese government would froth that. The Greens came out just the other day and said that. The Independents, who stand a really good chance of getting elected to the next parliament, they were coming out just the other day saying the Australian government's at fault for the deteriorating ties with China. The Australian government's been arrogant for not extending an olive branch. To varying degrees, all these parties, all the other, electoral groups in Australian democracy have been co-opted. They try and win over votes in the Chinese Australian community, so they fear that they feel that they can't criticise the CCP because it's a bizarre thing. I mean, the United Front groups are the most vocal and the best funded sort of groups among the Chinese Australian community, simply because the pro-democracy groups have been strangled and drowned out, unfairly intimidated. And because these United Front groups come out and support dictatorship, etc., a lot of the established Australian politicians, they think, just in the name of multiculturalism, we have to mute our criticism of the Chinese government's massive crimes against humanity. So many Australian politicians as well have just directly taken money, have directly taken basically what amounts to bribes. So, look, if you vote for us, we're not going to be taking bribes from the Chinese government. We're not going to be taking brown paper bags full of cash. We're not going to be, having fundraisers at the Australia-China Business Council, at the Australia-China Commerce Association, etc. Like we've got Tibetans, Hongkongers, Uyghurs, Australians who've faced CCP attacks. They're refugees from CCP rule. These people understand the CCP at a fundamental nature. And so if you want people who will stand for Australian democracy, stand for Australian sovereignty, never allow the Chinese government to suffocate us, strangle us into submission, then vote for people who actually understand the CCP, not the failed status quo politicians who just think engagement's the answer, when that policy has been borne out as a massive failure over the past couple of years.
And there's one additional reason, of course, people should vote for you, which is that you've been arrested, which makes you a criminal, which actually makes you the most Australian of all.
Oh.
I'm glad we took that time.
I believe in free speech, so I'll accept jokes at the Australian expense, because I'm not going to try bash you. I'm not going to call for your head, because we believe in democracy. We believe in freedom of speech.
All right. Well, so Drew, the election is coming up on May 21st. For anyone listening who wants to follow you, where should they go?
Look, follow my social media. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I'm even on TikTok, where I try and post anti-CCP stuff and I routinely get blocked. That's a good way to try and point out, limits to freedom of speech as well. So you can follow me on social media. You can follow our other candidates. We've got Kyinzom Dhongdue, the first Tibetan Australian to ever run for parliament. We've got Inty Elham, the first Uyghur to run for parliament. Adila Yarmuhammad, Max Mock, the Hong Konger. Follow our social medias. Follow along for the ride. I think it's quite entertaining. We get up to hijinks every day. And please follow along for the legal battle. I hope we'll go to the High Court and we'll win a big precedent for freedom of speech in this country and hopefully expand the right to freedom of speech.
Well, thanks for joining us today, Drew, and good luck with everything.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it all, from one convict to my American friends. I very much appreciate it.
All right. Take care. Take care of yourself.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, I think it's just incredible how so many people are deluded by like the whole racist, colonialist, imperialist thing, that they can't recognize what the Chinese Communist Party is doing.
Isn't it kind of racist to think that only one race can be ethno-fascists?
That's beautiful. Deep down, aren't we all ethno-fascists?
I don't like where this is going.
Yeah, suddenly it's gotten really bad.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's the thing. It's people can do bad things no matter who they are.
Yeah, regardless of race. Someday we'll live in a world where anybody can do terrible things to each other.
I think we are already living in that world.
Wow, it's beautiful.
Matt the optimist.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of shocked to hear how, I think because when we were in Australia in 2018, it was the beginning of the realization, I think, among a lot of Australian officials. There were all those ASIO investigations going on. That's when Clive Hamilton's book on like Chinese influence in Australia
Silent
came
invasion.
out. Yeah, so there was a growing discourse about this that wasn't happening yet in a lot of other countries that had been deeply compromised by China, like Canada,
as
the
Drew
US,
said, like
etc.
Australia is sort of the canary in the coal mine. A lot of things started. A lot of the CCP's
I would
tactics
say,
they learned in
I would
Taiwan,
say
and
Taiwan, then Australia and New Zealand,
Uh-huh.
then Canada, then
America.
America. America's last because, we're the hardest to defeat. They had to perfect their system first. But yeah, I mean, New Zealand just extradited somebody to China like a couple weeks ago.
It
Like,
was
it's-
insane.
Yeah, it's not good what's happening. So I was
No.
thinking that maybe Australia was like turning around, but apparently not so much.
Yeah, well, it sounds like all those elements are coming to the front.
Yeah, so
This
at
is
least
gonna be a
people
battle.
are being more aware of it, but especially the things about like the government being able to sell off all this land to
Mhm.
the Chinese Communist Party. I mean, it sounds like what's happening in, everywhere that the Chinese Communist Party has Belt and Road dealings, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, China has bought up some amount of American farmland too, not that
Right,
much,
but like the port of Darwin, which is
that's massive.
which is massive, and also because of its location.
Mhm.
And we'll put up a map, but like that location is the port that's really close to China, and so when you give access to Chinese, like civilian ships, but could then be these quasi gray area maritime militia, whatever it kind of ends up being.
It'll be great. The Chinese troops can stop at their military base on the Solomon Islands and then
And
go
go
down to
to
the military base on
Darwin.
Darwin.
Yeah, wow.
It's all part of the plan. Yeah.
Don't other people get it? Am I the only one who gets it?
Well, I mean, Drew gets it.
Drew gets it. Yeah, good on him for really pushing the envelope and not being intimidated, though. He should know he should always have a lawyer present if he's talking to the police.
I mean, he does have a good lawyer.
Yeah. Unfortunately, he does.
But, just not on midnight on a Saturday, I guess.
Well, I was just thinking of like that first time he was brought in the day. Like he shouldn't have made any statement to the police. I mean, like I can understand like, oh, obviously they're not going to be going after me
Yes.
because that would be insane.
Yeah, I remember a police consultant basically telling people like if you get brought into the station to give a statement and you're innocent, still get a lawyer. Like basically there's no reason to ever talk to the police without a lawyer present, period. Even if you do believe you're completely innocent.
You know what it is? It's all the cop shows.
Like Drew has this amazing story of like he's not a college dropout. Like he's expelled from college for doing what colleges and universities supposedly encourage people to do, which is stand up to try to make the system better, right? And the Australian university spent $500,000 in legal fees or whatever to kick him out. Like they could have paid for his tuition.
He paid for a lot of tuitions. Yeah, I mean, like that's incredible. The story began with like his university trying to expel him, and now he's a candidate for Senate, and he's being arrested for criticizing the CCP. That is mind-boggling. But I mean, fortunately, like, 1 million people saw that video. Like, it's getting press, so I think people do care about the issue. It's just wild times we live in. Well, so thank you for joining us to hear about Drew's incredible story. Hey, share it with your friends and family. I mean, yeah, that will benefit the show and get us more clicks and views, but it's for Drew. And, well, no, it's for stopping the Chinese Communist Party. This isn't about me secretly wanting to be mentioned by Zhao Lijian. Just share this with everyone.
That undercurrent of jealousy has been running this whole past hour.
Fuming. I've been fuming.